Up. In this crash state, people commonly report feeling anxious, shaky, mentally fatigued, or even panicked. Up. But this isn't just psychological, it's a neuroendocrine consequence of energy mismanagement. Lights up. The brain interprets falling blood sugar as a survival threat and reacts accordingly. Up. The result is decreased access to prefrontal cortex function, your executive center responsible for focus, inhibition, planning, and logic. At the same time, up, limbic system activity, particularly in the amygdala, ramps up, making you more reactive, impulsive, and emotionally volatile. This is one reason why people are more likely to lash out, shut down, or make poor decisions when they're hungry or experiencing a blood sugar drop. These effects are particularly pronounced in the late afternoon, a time when many people experience what they call the 3 p.m. up slump. This is often not a true circadian drop in energy. It's a glucose management failure. Up. A carb-heavy lunch without sufficient protein or creates a post-meal crash that affects mood and productivity for hours. This pattern, repeated daily, up, leads to chronic stress, diminished emotional resilience, and long-term metabolic consequences. Lights up. There is also a connection between blood sugar fluctuations and sleep quality, which further influences emotional regulation. It actually lights up. When blood sugar crashes in the night, often due to a sugar-heavy evening meal or alcohol, the body's stress response is triggered up, waking you up at 2 or 3 a.m. and disrupting REM sleep. Poor sleep then reduces glucose tolerance the following day, perpetuating the cycle of instability. It actually lights up. Stabilizing blood sugar, therefore, is not just about avoiding disease. It's about protecting your mental bandwidth, emotional balance, and ability to act with intention. One of the most effective strategies to regulate glucose is to prioritize low-glycemic meals, those that are rich in protein, healthy fats, and complex carbohydrates. Fiber slows the absorption of glucose, preventing sharp spikes. Protein enhances insulin sensitivity. It actually lights up. Healthy fats provide satiety and reduce the urge for sugar cravings. Even the order in which you eat your food affects glucose response. Up. Studies have shown that consuming protein and vegetables before carbohydrates leads to a significantly reduced post-meal blood glucose spike. It actually lights up. Another tool is movement. A short walk after a meal, even for just 10 minutes, up, can dramatically flatten the glucose curve by helping muscle cells absorb more glucose without requiring excess insulin. These behavioral levers, meal composition, nutrient timing, post-meal movement, are accessible, science-backed ways to train your physiology for stability. Up. Over time, these habits were the nervous system to operate with more efficiency. The peaks and valleys flatten, emotional reactivity diminishes. It actually lights up, the capacity reflect, and choose your response over your reaction increases. The brain becomes more resilient to stress, up, not because the external world has changed, but because the internal environment has stabilized through intelligent, consistent blood sugar regulation. The brain is not fixed. It's dynamic. It is constantly remodeling itself in response to input. What you learn, what you focus on, how you sleep, how you move, and critically, what you eat. This ability to change, reshape, and rewire is known as neuroplasticity, and it is the biological basis of learning, emotional regulation, resilience, and behavior change. But while most people focus on psychological techniques to influence the brain, lights up. Few realize how deeply the nutritional environment determines the quality and efficiency of that neural remodeling. At a cellular level, lights up. Neuroplasticity is governed by the growth and strengthening of synapses, the pruning of unnecessary connections, the production of new neurons in select brain areas, process called neurogenesis, and the modulation of neurotransmitter levels. Lights up. All of these mechanisms are sensitive to metabolic inputs, especially those provided by your diet. The phrase, "You are what you eat," isn't a cliché. It's a physiological truth. The brain builds itself out of the molecules you provide through your diet. If you supply it with the nutrients that support synaptic growth, mitochondrial efficiency, and chemical balance, it becomes more flexible, responsive, and capable of adaptation. If you don't, it becomes rigid, sluggish, and prone to dysfunction. One of the most important players in the story of neuroplasticity is a molecule called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. BDNF acts like fertilizer for the brain. It promotes the growth of new synapses, supports the survival of existing neurons, and enhances long-term potentiation, the strengthening of communication between neurons that underlies learning and memory. BDNF levels are directly influenced by what you eat, particularly by foods rich in omega-3 fatty acids, polyphenols, curcumin, and flavonoids. For example, with caught fatty fish, rich in DHA and EPA, has been shown to increase BNF expression and enhance synaptic function. DHA, a structural omega-3, integrates into neuronal membranes, improving their fluidity and signaling capacity. Meanwhile, berries, dark chocolate, green tea, and turmeric are all rich in compounds that cross the blood-brain barrier and activate gene expression pathways that elevate BDNF. This means food is not just energy, it's instruction. It tells your genes to promote growth, resilience, and cognitive performance. On the flip side, high sugar diacetyl oils and excessive refined carbohydrates suppress BDNF and increase oxidative stress in the brain. This weakens the connections between neurons, slows learning, impairs memory, and diminishes adaptability. It's not just that these foods are healthy. They are anti-neuroplastic. They biologically reduce your brain's ability to change and improve. Over time, this leads to a system that becomes trapped in patterns of thought and behavior, unable to break out of old habits, unable to respond creatively to challenges. Another critical nutrient for brain adaptability is magnesium. Found in foods like leafy greens, pumpkin seeds, and avocados, magnesium acts as a factor in over 300 enzymatic processes and plays a central role in synaptic plasticity. It regulates NMDA receptors, which are vital for encoding new memories. A deficiency in magnesium is associated with increased anxiety, poor memory, and reduced cognitive flexibility. And it's shockingly common due to soil depletion and processed food consumption. Choline, found in egg yolks and liver, supports the creation of acetylcholine, a neurotransmitter that governs attention and learning. Without adequate choline, neuroplasticity suffers because the brain lacks the signaling molecules to drive sustained focus, a necessary condition for forming new connections. Similarly, zinc, vitamin B6, and B12 all contribute to methylation and neurotransmitter synthesis, processes that must be intact for healthy neural adaptation. Blood sugar stability is also crucial. Neuroplasticity depends on consistent glucose delivery to the brain, not extreme spikes and crashes. When blood's unsugable, cortisol levels rise, inflammation increases, and BNF production decreases. As a result, your brain has fewer resources to remodel itself under pressure. You may try to adopt new habits or learning strategies, but the underlying biological substrate isn't ready to support those changes. Protein also contributes to brain adaptability. Amino acids from protein-rich foods supply the raw materials for neurotransmitter synthesis: dopamine, serotonin, glutamate, all of which modulate attention, lights up, emotioning. Without enough protein, especially in high-demand periods like stress or intense cognitive work, the system can't keep up, lights up. Even if you're practicing new behaviors or feeding your brain with knowledge, the chemical messengers required to integrate that input are in short supply. Timing matters too. Neuroplasticity is enhanced during certain windows. After intense focus, during deep sleep, and following physical movement. If those windows are matched with appropriate nutrient delivery, such as post-exercise rich in omega-3s and antioxidants, the gains in brain wiring are accelerated. In contrast, if those moments are paired with inflammatory foods or skipped meals, the opportunity for rewiring is lost or diminished. Your brain is literally sculpted by what you put into your mouth. Every bite is either an accelerant or a brake on the process of becoming more adaptable, focused, and resilient. The foods you choose create a neurochemical landscape that either encourages synaptic growth or suppresses it. This means diet is not just a health decision. It is a behavioral one. It's not just about longevity. It's about your brain's ability to learn, adapt, evolve, and perform under pressure to understand how your daily food choices affect your mindset, your emotions, and your drive. Lights up. You have to understand the relationship between nutrition and hormones. Hormones are not just chemical messengers. They are regulators of behavior. It's up. They influence your energy levels, your capacity to focus, your emotional regulation, your sense of confidence, and even how you respond to stress and setbacks. What you eat sets the stage for how your endocrine system performs, and in turn, that hormonal environment conditions your behavior, sometimes without your awareness. Think of hormones as operating systems that run in the background, orchestrating everything from mood and motivation to metabolism and memory. Key players in this system: insulin, cortisol, estrogen, testosterone, leptin, up. Ghrelin, thyroid hormones, dopamine, and serotonin are all responsive to food inputs. When the diet is nutrient-dense and balanced, up, these hormones operate within healthy rhythms. But when the diet is deficient in protein, fat, or micronutrients, or overloaded with sugar, processed oils, it actually lights up, and artificial ingredients. Those hormonal rhythms are disrupted. And when hormones are disrupted, so is behavior. Let's begin with insulin, up. The hormone responsible for shuttling glucose from the bloodstream into your cells for energy, lights up. When your diet is chronically high in refined carbohydrates and low in fiber or protein, your body releases more and more insulin to deal with the influx of glucose. Over time, this leads to insulin resistance, up, where the cells become less responsive. This condition not only leads to metabolic disorders, but also affects the brain, lights up. Insulin resistance has been linked to cognitive decline, impaired memory, and mood instability. It actually lights up. The brain's insulin sensitivity to utilize glucose efficiently, especially in the hippocampus and prefrontal cortex, it actually lights up, regions essential for memory and decision-making. Next is cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. It's regulated not just by external stressors, up, but also by internal conditions, including blood sugar levels and nutritional status, up. A diet high in sugar and caffeine cause frequent spikes and crashes in energy, triggering a cortisol response to maintain homeostasis, up. Chronically elevated cortisol is associated with anxiety, poor sleep, muscle breakdown, and decreased neuroplasticity. If your diet is constantly sending stress signals, your cortisol rhythm becomes dysregulated. And when cortisol is dysregulated, focus, motivation, and even empathy decline. Testosterone and estrogen, commonly associated with reproductive health, are also powerful behavioral influencers. Up. Testosterone supports confidence, competitive drive, muscle synthesis, and goal-directed behavior in all genders. Estrogen supports verbal memory, lights up, emotional processing, and fine motor coordination. Both of these hormones are synthesized from cholesterol, which comes from dietary fat. If dietary fat intake is too low, especially healthy sources like omega-3s, avocados, nuts, and eggs, hormone production can drop, resulting in low libido, up, fatigue, reduced ambition, and impaired cognitive flexibility. Excess processed food and alcohol, on the other hand, up, can elevate estrogen levels and disrupt this delicate hormonal balance. Leptin and ghrelin are two lesser known but equally crucial hormones. Up, they regulate hunger and satiety. Ghrelin signals when you're hungry, leptin tells your brain you're full. A diet high in processed, up, hyper-palatable foods desensitizes the brain's response to leptin, making you feel hungry even when you've eaten enough. The result is overeating, up, poor impulse control, and a disconnect between physical and emotional hunger. These hormones also have psychological effects. X, lights up. Ghrelin increases anticipation and dopamine sensitivity, which can drive addictive behaviors, not just with food, but with devices, substances, and distractions. Thyroid hormones like T3 and T4 regulate metabolic rate. They influence how efficiently you burn calories, up, but also how energetic and mentally alert you feel. To make thyroid hormones, your body needs specific nutrients: iodine, selenium, zinc, and lights up, and tyrosine, all of which come from whole nutrient-rich foods like eggs, seafood, seaweed, and seeds, up. A deficiency in any of these nutrients slows the thyroid and leads to symptoms like lethargy, brain fog, and low mood, lights up. Even neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin, while not classified as traditional hormones, up, are heavily influenced by dietary inputs and function in a similar regulatory role. Up, dopamine is the molecule of motivation and drive. It governs your willingness to act. Serotonin supports emotional resilience and social behavior. Up, both require precursors like tyrosine and tryptophan, which come from protein-rich foods such as turkey, eggs, chicken, dairy, and seeds, up. These neurotransmitters are synthesized in the gut and brain, and their balance is directly affected by micronutrients like B6, magnesium, iron, and folate, up. Inadequate nutrition creates bottlenecks in neurotransmitter synthesis, leading to behavior patterns that feel like laziness, depression, lights up, or lack of discipline, but are actually biochemical in origin. On the flip side, when you support hormone health through deliberate food choices, you create a system that self-reinforces discipline, clarity, and emotional intelligence. The entire behavioral system, your focus, your willpower, lights up. Your resilience under stress is an emergent property of the internal chemical environment created by your diet. Food is not passive fuel up. It is an active modulator of the hormones that determine how you feel, how you act, and how consistently you follow through on the things that matter most